This tip has to do with turning sympathy to celebration. So, when you learn that someone has recently lost a dear parent or friend, and, like you find out that, somebody's parent has died, and the common response is to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." And I experienced that when my father died. People would say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry. And I would tell them I was sad. And the point and it just was an awkward moment because I felt like I had to, care for them because they were sad and I was sad, and it was awkward. So it occurs to me that we can turn sympathy into celebration if people say to one, like, so if you hear that somebody's dear one has died, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," you say, "What would you like me to know about that person?" And that opens up so much. They get to stop and reflect about what would they like you to know about their dear one who has recently died. And I had that experience when I asked a woman, I tried it out, and she said her mother had died. And I said, "Well, what would you like me to know about your mother?" And she said, "Well, my mother was the owner and cook of a cafe up in Powers, Oregon." And Powers, Oregon is in the southern Oregon coastal range, a little town that had in the past a lot of logging, a lot of lumber, a lot of jobs, a mill, and the lumber company cut all the trees down and left. And so it's really not much happening there in Powers, Oregon now. And there was an old guy who still lived there, who'd had one of those jobs and didn't have it now, of course. And he would come in every day to the cafe, and she could tell he didn't have much money. And so my friend told me that her mother would offer him a bowl of soup every day, and she'd say she knew he had too much pride to just take a free bowl of soup. She would say, "I just don't know if this soup tastes very good. Would you taste this soup for me?" And he would, and it would give him nourishment, and it would give her a report on the soup. And even if it was the same soup the next day, she would say, "Well, I just don't know if it's still good. Could you test it?" And he was her designated soup tester, and it gave him nourishment and gave her satisfaction to know she was helping someone. And my friend was just really impressed with her mother's compassion and sensitivity to an old logger. And it's just a gem of a story, and I'm really glad she told me that story. And you're going to learn stories like that. You're going to hear stories like that when you just say to one who you learn someone has died, you say, "Well, what would you like me to know about that person?" Give them a chance to celebrate the other person's life.